to navigate the roads, the skies, the seas, to function in general, judgment is essential. Good judgment. I remember going to a store in Canada, and the items were on the counter. The cashier said, "I'm sorry, I can't sell you the item because the computer isn't functioning." I said, "Computer, here's the money. All you have to do is make a note of how much you received, and I collect the item and go." She said, "No, I can't do that. The computer isn't working." So essentially, I could not purchase the item because the computers were not functioning. I bring the point over as to the benefits and the dangers of technology. Gone are the days when we got to a stoplight or a crossroad. You go to a crossroad, and there were no stoplights at the time, and we all had to utilize judgment, the conscience, reason to be able to having the traffic flow. You'd have the traffic flow with ease because a person got to the crossing and recognized that someone was here ahead of him, her, and you'd allow that person to go through, and then you go, and there was respect back in the day. Undoubtedly there was far fewer traffic on the road, that's for sure, but when the lights malfunction, when the lights are gone and there are no stoplights, don't we have to find a way to navigate through the stoplights, through the crossings? Yes, we do. And what do you rely on? Judgment. So there's a great danger in completely relying on the technology. I stood by the White River crossing one day, and I observed all the vehicles moving, and the light was on red, but there was nothing coming either right or left for a long time. And that person sat down there, and by the time the lights changed, the individual had to wait until the traffic flowed through. And so when you think of it, it wastes time, because if a police officer is at the stoplight, which I observed afterwards, he would stop the vehicle that had the right of way. The green is there, but he puts up his hand and that person has to stop. And he's calling someone through on the red. Why? To facilitate the flow of the traffic. So if one police officer can use his judgment to determine that there is need for a flow of the traffic from one direction, then undoubtedly the people, the drivers, the commuters should be able to utilize their judgment. What has led us to that point of being unable to use the judgment? And I say that complete reliance on the technology. So I mentioned recently the discretionary zone, and if the vehicles are coming through and they're 200 yards away, then there is a window of opportunity for that person to get out safely. Now, I propose that the cameras are erected at the location you have the discretionary clause. Now, where a driver seeks to beat traffic using the discretionary clause, then that person, if he puts the oncoming driver in danger, then he should be charged, understandably. How this works, you have a zone that if any vehicle reaches that point, then you cannot go out. How far? You do the calculations to determine the window of opportunity for that vehicle leaving the minor road to get out on the major road. It requires a different mode of thinking, and we have to believe in our people enough so that these things can be implemented and we can trust their judgment. You teach individuals, and I think what has happened, because I learned to drive during the days where there were no stoplights in the country, and we were taught how to drive. Now, the conscience again. For those individuals who trusted the license, you say trust, you trust the license and still haven't paid for it as yet. It's evident the way they drive. You can tell who was properly trained and those who are not. And the same system that prosecutes is guilty of overlooking all of these discrepancies where people would pay for a license. Somebody goes to the depot and fails miserably, but leaves with a license. And the person who drove carefully was told he blew his horn too much and he was failed based on that. Because what? As said by one examiner, there's hair in your hand. In other words, you're not willing to pay. How many examiners today are wealthy as a result of collecting money for that driver's license? How many? I speak to the consciences. You know yourselves. So, we speak about the challenges on the roads. We speak about the incidences of accidents, frequency. Don't we know where the problem really lies? We do. The day when the nation, when the leaders awaken, when their consciences have awakened, and they're willing to face the truth, then we'll have change in this great nation. But as long as people are willing to lie, to turn a blind eye to the causes of the challenges we face, then we'll forever have the same how do we. The answer is clear. We do know exactly how. We know what the problem is, and I call upon this great nation to stand at this point and let the conscience speak and let good judgment prevail. That is essentially how we'll effect change. So the issue of the stoplights, this issue of how to navigate at a crossing, in the same manner that we would utilize a judgment if the lights aren't working, we should be able to utilize a judgment. We need to now adjust the system. We need to adjust, make adjustments, have a national policy defined. And we explore all the possibilities, and included in that will be training now. When you train an individual outside, they'll see the distance, the safe zone. When is that window of opportunity? A millisecond adjustment of the stoplight makes a world of difference. I did turning movement counts. We did field studies in Canada to determine where it would be safe to put an exit within proximity of the stoplights to provide that window of opportunity. How many individuals can go through safely before the traffic moves? There's a lot that need to be thought through, and change is possible. We can essentially see a huge difference. Safety was my forte. I was a safety standards officer, North American Transit Solutions Company, NATSCO. And there's a lot that I can share, and a lot I'm willing to share. The door is open. This is the voice of reason, Emperor Elijah, Franklin J. Wallace. Race, restoring a clean environment, identifying issues, formulating solutions. Have a great day.